Hello and welcome to the Comics in Motion podcast bonus episode. So I'm one of your co-hosts, Dave.
And I'm Chris. That's a bit strange. You say me doing that, Dave, but yes, I'm Chris Phelps. Welcome, everyone.
So we just thought we'd do a really short episode, just going through some of our highlights for 2018 and taking a look back and at the different highs and the different lows. So, Chris, we might come up with some others as we go through. We haven't done this before, but since we do have 1 year behind us, it'd be nice to just put a bookend on that, and then we can start off with the new year afresh. So I thought we'd start off with first award for our favorite co-host moment. So no pressure. So I'll go first. So I was thinking about this, and I've put many long minutes of thought into this. The one, it's not really one moment, but I think part of my favorite moment is when I can get you to say, Dave, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Which first appeared back in, was it episode 4? I think with Nick Fury. No, it was 5, wasn't it? We did Kingsman for 4 with Nick Fury, followed up by Generation X, followed up, I think, was it Weird Science? And then Howard the Duck, and then Fantastic Four was the last one, wasn't it?
Yes.
So just over 50 episodes. So roughly every 10 episodes, we've managed to get that catchphrase out of you. But I think if I was to do a single moment, it was when we started playing about with the iTunes reviews or the Apple Podcast reviews. And it's not so much you put on the full-on Christian Bale Batman voice for the review. It was just after that where you admitted that you'd been sat on your back step practicing it and trying out all these different apps. And I just was thinking of you, just and what your neighbours would be thinking about you, just practicing this Batman voice. So I think that was it for me.
Yeah, very good, very good. For me, obviously, in relation to yourself, it's the revelation that on the quiet, Dave, you are a bit of an impressionist when it comes to the voices. Now, the one that always sticks in my head has got to be Superman 2. When you pulled out an almost Rene from Hello, Hello stroke, that English copper who used to go, good morning. And you just did that. He went with us for about 3 or 4 episodes afterwards, was the, it started. You know, it's just like, that has stuck with me. And I mentioned it the other week, did it in the podcast. It might have even been in the Bumblebee, but that always sticks in my head. It's an absolute classic. Now, I've known you for, 12, 13 years, from when we were in the band. I know, obviously, we only sort of touched base properly again over the last, say, 18 months, speaking a lot. On Facebook, we'd speak a lot, but actually to get together and chat and stuff. But I never knew that you had this talent, Dave. And it has far outdone anything I can impersonate, even the Christian Bale one. I've got to say, the Bane one was a good one as well, like you did. And then the actual review impressions you've done, I mean, they've been nothing short of extraordinary.
That's not quite the word I'd use, but okay, we'll go with that.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
I was watching a bit of Harry Potter as well over the Christmas break, and it's old Mr. Dursley, isn't it? The guy who does that. It started. Have you watched it back since?
Oh yeah. I watched it the other week. Yeah, Superman 2.
I just wondered if you'd be able to keep a straight face for that.
It just reminded me that. I mean, that guy's always like a comedy, a bad guy anyway. He always has been a bit of a weird character in that film, but now it just reminds me of you all the time.
Very good, very good. Now, I thought for the next one, we'd do what we thought was the best new release movie.
Yeah.
So just purely going, there's been lots of stuff, but things that we've reviewed and actually gone through. So we did Avengers Infinity War back in episode 11. We did Deadpool 2 back in episode 16. We did Ant-Man and Wasp, episode 30. We did Venom, episode 49, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, episode, was that 51?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So, Chris, I mean, what would you say was your highlight there?
It just stops with Avengers for me, Dave. It's got all the comic, other than my love for Superman and Batman, but it's got all superheroes and the Hulk. Obviously, he's not really in it, but he's in there. Everything about that film. I wasn't sure what going into it, whether it would work, having all these egos and actors on and everything else, and how the story arc could go, and the fact that obviously Thanos, even though it's Josh Brolin, was CGI, and we'd seen with Steppenwolf in Justice League, it was terrible, but Thanos was just his own entity and believable as this all-conquering god as such. And an honorary mention, Dave, I'll be honest with you, like I say, an honorary mention, I think, as a new film, it was probably Bumblebee a couple of weeks, the last episode. I know it's an extension of the Transformers.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I missed that one, didn't I?
Yeah, I think Bumblebee trumps all, if I'm honest. But I don't know whether you're going to allow me to do this, but can I be honest with you, Dave? Avengers is my best film of the year, but there's another film that's coming to the fray, which I think is just as good, but it's not something that we would review.
Go on.
I absolutely love A Star Is Born, Dave. With Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. It's
a chick flick, isn't it?
Oh, Dave, it's phenomenal. It may end the podcast here, but it's a phenomenal film, honestly. It's a remake of like 2 or 3 versions of it. Chris Christopherson, one of the second I mentioned. Judy Garland did one in the 50s. Dave, it's fantastic. And the actual soundtrack is amazing. And he sings all his own stuff, Bradley Cooper. But Lady Gaga, I've never liked her or paid much attention. She was very self-centered and all that. But what a film. But I think that, for various other reasons, is as good as the Avengers. And that's controversial, I'm sorry.
Wow. So I do want to see that. I can wait, though, till it comes out on probably not even DVD, probably streaming on Netflix or something. But I didn't realise you raised it quite so highly. You'd mentioned it a few episodes ago, but putting it on par with that, Avengers, because I think for me as well, it's got to be the Avengers. It defies logic how you can get all those, not just all the actors and characters together, but the tones of all of the different movies wasn't the same either.
Yeah.
And I know Chris Hemsworth had said that, he felt it was a backward step for Thor. After what they'd done with Thor Ragnarok, they'd really kind of played up the comedy side of it. But I thought he still got his comedy moments in there. And I just thought they brought it together brilliantly. And I thought that was the best movie. It was the one real comic book event type movie I think we've seen to date. That was the top one for me. Yeah,
good stuff. Now, next category, Dave, is best retro movie. Now, obviously, we have reviewed a lot. And we've reviewed a lot of rubbish as well, as we've said. But what would you go back in time with anything we've reviewed and say was the best retro movie?
And I should point out, we're not being ironic with this as well. It genuinely, what is the best movie? So what have we looked at that stood up better than we had thought? So we'll talk about some of the worst later on. But you know what? It's got to be Dark Knight for me. So, and that's not a surprise. It's well known. One of the best comic book movies that's out there. But I just think for a lot of the things that we've looked back on, and we've had all this nostalgia around, you don't remember it perfectly. And so when you're watching it again with the intention of reviewing it, you look at it slightly differently. And so quite a lot of the films that we've done haven't really stood up to a lot of the scrutiny. But I just thought Dark Knight really did. And for me, absolutely stands up. And it doesn't get any worse. It just gets better every time I watch it.
Good call. Good call. Obviously, I give it an Atlantis, Dave.
You did.
Yeah. Controversially, I'll get the words out. For me, Dave, there's only one film if it's a retro film, and it's one of my favourite superhero films of all time. I'm teeing you up for this, Dave. If you know me well, you know what I'm going to say.
Well, we toyed with the idea of doing Die Hard and Rocky, but we didn't do them. So what did we do? It's not Weird Science, I know that.
No. It's my favourite.
Superman 2, isn't it?
Of course. I could watch that on a loop week by week, that film. I love it. I love the music. I love the redemption with Superman, the fact that he gets beat up and comes back. And I love all that in films. I love the comeback of the hero being tarnished and having to, and that's, I think we've never reviewed it, and we will be reviewing it. And we're going to get Jamie on, obviously, Jamie Solis, the friend of the show. She's going to come on. But when we do The Dark Knight Rises, that's why I love The Dark Knight Rises, because there's that redemption with Batman where he's got to search his inner soul to come back. And I just love that format in films. So it's always going to be Superman 2.
Yeah, and that did have, I mean, it was good. I can't separate the nostalgia, for me personally. I can't separate the nostalgia from and just watch it as a movie, because again, it's got some pretty awful bits. I remember that they're supposed to be in Houston, aren't they? Houston, Texas, and you got the little boy shouting out, "It's like, please, sir," little Oliver with the most British accent you've ever heard. So yeah, there's some pretty funny bits in that. But I tell you what, going back to all of those Christopher Reeve movies, Superman 1 through to 3. I think and we'll do 4 with Mike Lee Graham as well, won't we? At some point soon. It's just how Christopher Reeve for me is Superman, and he just nails the Clark Kent part of the persona as well as the Superman one. And I know I've said it before, but Henry Cavill, as good as he is as Superman, he just doesn't do it Clark Kent wise for me. And I haven't seen anyone else do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I do. Next category, Dave, your best TV show.
Yeah, so we didn't do quite as many TV shows, did we? We did Daredevil. We did Daredevil Series 1 and we did Daredevil Series 3. Need to go back and clean up and do the second one. We did Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
We did the first half of Cloak and Dagger, but just didn't have the will, I don't think, to do the second half. I don't think that's going to be top somehow. I think that was it for TV this year. So what do you reckon to that?
I've got to give an honorary mention to the Cobra Kai, Dave. Without doubt, revelation of a series. I was bigging it up to you. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I know they've just finished post-production on Series 2, so that'll be coming later on this year. But, Dave, Daredevil Series 3, I think it even trumped the first series for me. Absolutely amazing. That's without doubt head and shoulders above anything that I've watched on TV, even with what we've reviewed and what I've actually watched, in my own spare time. I just love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think I'd have to go the same. And I was thinking the same. I think biggest surprise TV show of the year that was great, and I had no idea about it until you mentioned to me, it was Cobra Kai, and I can't wait for that second series as well. But Series 3 of Daredevil was brilliant for me, and I did spot on Twitter. So Matt from Jasper Reviews had bought Born Again, which is a lot of the beats were taken out of Born Again to put into Series 3, and he's never read it, so I need to follow up with him and see how he got on with that, because I don't know anyone else who's watched the series first and then gone back and read the book. Most, everyone else I know has read the book and then, watched the TV series. But yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. And, again, fingers crossed, let's hope there is some future for that Charlie Cox Daredevil.
No, good stuff, good stuff. Now, what about best character, Dave?
You know what? I'm gonna go back to the same well. So in terms of best character, so this is a bit nebulous, isn't it? So it could be best new character, just villain, hero, whatever. And maybe next year we'll refine this a bit. I am going to say Thanos. Now, with the way the MCU teased him, it was getting a bit laborious, just because he turned up at the end in the end credits of the first Avengers movie, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he kept showing up in other different end credits, and it's like, oh, for God's sake, just enough with the Thanos already. But I think the reason I think Thanos is because in the comics, he's pretty much a two-dimensional villain, really. He's not. There's no empathy with him. He's not doing it for a particular cause. He's just a maniacal villain. And I thought they did a brilliant job of making him the hero of his own story, in that Infinity War program. And the way, you can see Josh Brolin's face in Thanos and, all his facial movements and everything. I just thought was brilliant. So for me, best character of this year is Thanos. What about yourself, Chris?
Well, I can't have the same guy. Knowing what the next two categories are, I would have the same person, but I'm not going to do that. I think for best character, as in for carrying a film, just basically ruining a film, but in a great way. There's only one character and one man for me who was fantastic. And I think the second one was better than the first, and that is Deadpool. I just absolutely love Ryan Reynolds. I love the breaking the fourth wall down. I love the in-jokes, the snipes at Hugh Jackman and Wolverine, the way there's just no boundaries with the character. And I think it's so well made and directed, and the jokes are just enough not to be too much. And I just love Deadpool, Dave. So for me, the best character is Deadpool because he carries them films. I just really do. After what we've actually reviewed, for me, he's the best one.
Yeah. No, he is brilliant. And I did see, I think the remake. So we never got around to looking at Once Upon a Deadpool, did we?
No.
We never got around to seeing it at the cinema. It was literally on for a day, and then it was pulled off, so to speak. But they've released it on DVD, I think. And I'm just not sure I can bring myself to buy it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I know it's only going to be marginally. I know it's basically Deadpool 2 with a few extra scenes. And I'm not that much of not with DVDs anymore. I'm not that much of a completionist. So I do want to see it, but I don't want to fork out again.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe hopefully it'll show up on there. I don't know, one of the streaming services or something.
Yeah, I think it will. Interesting to watch now. I think we're going to have to watch it, even if we don't review it, just to what we thought, to be honest.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Now, I mean, we hadn't put down a best hero, but we've said a number of times, haven't we? One of our own, not discoveries, but it just really, it rams the point home when we watch these movies that, a story is only ever as good as its villain.
Yeah.
So I thought, looking at new movies, old movies, of all the movies that we've reviewed, what do we think is the best villain that we've had? So do you want to go first?
Yeah, and I think you know where I'm going. I was going to name this character as the best character I'd seen we reviewed and I enjoyed. But for the best villain, Dave, definitely mention to Thanos. Great. I wasn't know what to expect. I mentioned it before, as I said, the Avengers totally took me off guard, and Josh Brolin's brilliant without a doubt. It's making me want, Endgame to come even sooner. But it's got to be Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, the best bad guy I think I've ever seen in a superhero film or TV show, without doubt. Fantastic, and he makes that is why Daredevil series 1 and 3. Head and shoulders above anything else that the Marvel Netflix series has done, and that includes series 2 of Daredevil, because he's in it. He's not in series 2, and it makes for a big difference in the actual quality of what you see on the screen, and it's just fantastic.
You've thrown me there. I thought you were going to say Viper from Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, Dave, she was really good, but she was dressed as like she charged money for certain things, but
for services rendered.
I enjoyed her performance, but it wasn't her acting anyway.
She was a lovely lady.
Yeah.
So well, again, I've said about Thanos, so I'm not going to choose him again. What was interesting was it was very similar, just on a smaller scale, was Valentine's Plan, wasn't it, in Kingsman's Secret Service that we looked at back in episode 4. So he was trying to do the same thing, essentially, cull part of the population of the Earth, and then, that'll save the planet, and then, people can live longer. So it was a very similar plan. I am thinking, honorable mention to General Zod. Again, how well does it stand up? I mean, his little coup was to go in and snap a red crystal, which I still think was a bit harsh to send him off to the Phantom Zone just for that. But I'm gonna have to come back again. The reason I chose Dark Knight as the best sort of retro review movie that we've done is all about Heath Ledger's performance. And so for me, of all the movies that we've looked at, I still think his portrayal of the Joker is just up there on a pedestal for me. And so, yeah, he's the best villain of the year for me.
Good stuff, Dave. Very good. That's actually, I didn't even think about that, to be honest, because I've absolutely always cooing over the Kingpin art. But yeah, good choice. Very good choice. Now, Dave, we've gone through the best. We've got a couple of categories for the worst. Now, the first one we've got today is the worst movie you've seen this year that we've reviewed.
Do you want me to go again? Okay. Well, now I've given a Phantom Zone to 4 different things this year. So I've given it to Generation X. I've given it to Hulk versus Thor, the animated feature.
Yep.
I've given it to Man of Steel, which I know still irks you a bit. And I've given it to Howard the Duck. Notable absence, obviously, being the previously unreleased Fantastic Four movie. But I said why I enjoyed that, and that went to Hell's Kitchen for me. Out of that little lot, I have to say it was Howard the Duck. I thought the tone and writing of the movie was just so off, and it was intended to be a kind of a family movie, but there was just so much adult that was in it. It was just awful, and again, there was no good villain in that for sure. So yeah, the worst thing that doesn't stand up to my nostalgic memory is Howard the Duck for me.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Chris?
There's been plenty. The old, as you mentioned before, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I think you've done something that I never thought you could do, and the challenge is brilliant. I've got to give, I doff my cap to you, Dave, because absolutely brilliant. Some of this trash that you've made me watch this last year. I think there's been some awful stuff. Generation X. Nick Fury, now that we're 50 episodes in, doesn't seem like a bad film, actually. But at the time, I thought it was absolutely atrocious. But I think it was close between Howard the Duck and this film, and this is the last piece of trash that we watched and reviewed, and that is the Fantastic Four. I never thought you'd outdo me with Howard the Duck. Boy, did you outdo me with Howard the Duck. I did feel an honourable mention as well. If you watch the film, The Fantastic Four, obviously it's available on Netflix and on YouTube, 1994. You watch it, you will be like, that is the worst thing I've ever seen. But please watch afterwards the documentary on Amazon Prime regarding that, which you got me onto, Dave, because you actually come out of it feeling really sorry for the actors and actresses because they're absolutely played, and it's absolute disgusting what they did. But that being said, the fact that Ben Griffith, is it Ben Griffiths? What's it called? Ben
Grimm.
Ben Grimm. Ben Griffiths. Yeah. Ben Grimm goes. The guy who plays him is obviously 6'4", but when he turns into the Thing, he shrinks to about 5'8", which makes no sense whatsoever. And I just think that is the worst thing I've seen. But that's also going off a really bad budget because it was a B-movie company that made it. But you don't see this until you research it. So to watch it and just put someone in front of your TV and play it, I literally reckon that 99% of people will say that it's absolute awful. So I'm going with that one.
Very good. Very good. Now, the next one we've got is worst character. So of all these movies, TV shows that we've looked at, who really just doesn't sit right with either the story or it just jars with you? Who's that going to be for you, Chris?
There's some proper honourable mentions, Dave. I'm looking at the list of stuff that we reviewed, and there's some pure trash on this. But I think I'm going to go back to episode 8, Generation X, and Jeremy Ratchford, who played Banshee, had probably quite literally the worst Irish accent I have ever heard in my life. And this is coming from someone who's got my grandfather, who's still with us. He's from Belfast, so he's from Northern Ireland, and various friends over the years. And I genuinely have not heard a worse accent. Yours came close to the French one, Dave, but this one is utter trash. And if you can get onto YouTube and put Generation X in, and you'll come up, the whole film's on there. Just listen to his accent. It's absolutely appalling. So Jeremy Ratchford, Banshee.
Very good. I think for me, I'm going to go to our episode 42, and I'm going to call out the Violator that we reviewed in Spawn.
Oh, yes. Good call.
Yeah. So again, you take him, that silly clown dressed up as a cheerleader. You take him out of the story, or just the ridiculousness of him out of the story, and you maybe put someone a bit more grounded. I think it makes for a better movie. And I just thought his character I remember when it came out, it didn't sit right with me then. It certainly, on rewatching it years back later, it just doesn't stand up at all. So the Violator from Spawn gets it for me.
You know what, Dave? That's a great call, and I'll be honest with you, I forgot about that. But I'll stick with Banshee. I think Violator comes a close second, and I think that's for just pure vileness and horrible character. But yeah, great shout, Dave.
I do remember Banshee, where the kids are like messing about. They were playing, a bit of football, weren't they?
Yeah.
And then he just uses his powers, his supersonic scream to separate them, and then he does the old blowing on his fingers, as if they're guns.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Absolutely awful.
It's like, don't be doing that now. It sounds like a tinker on a jippo, doesn't he?
I don't think you can say that.
Okay. He sounds like, better believe that. He sounds like a traveller, Dave, as he would say in the UK. He's just really bad.
It just sounds like someone trying to do an awful Irish accent, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, but getting paid for it, that's the problem. He gets paid for that accent. That's even worse. But no, very good, Dave, very good. Now, the final award is it's a man after mine and your heart, who is so close to us. He's the legend that came about in episode 4, Dave, I believe. Episode 5, sorry.
5, yeah.
I stand corrected. Episode 5. It is the Hoff Award, for the hammy acting. Now, this is going to become a yearly award for myself and Dave of the people that we've watched. So, Dave, who is your first Hoff Award winner?
Well, I think we've gone a bit ahead because we've called the award. But I'm looking up and down the list, and I just can't see past the Hoff himself. Because, again, and obviously next year we'll have to choose someone else, but him in Nick Fury was just pure hammy wonderfulness. It's just, and again, I haven't been able to find a clip of it, but where he's doing like a secret code exchange, where one secret agent says something cryptic and then the other secret agent says something cryptic back, and that's how they know, they're speaking to the right person. And then he just says something else that's completely off the wall. She's like, I don't understand that. It's just like, I just felt like saying it. It's just brilliantly Hoff. And so yeah, it's got to go to the Hoff himself, hasn't it? Surely.
Very good. Are we doing one award each? Or are we doing one?
Yeah, let's do one each.
So yeah, I think you've made a very good case for the Hoff there, Dave. And I still love the fact that when that English guy, I can't remember his name, Piers comes through the cave where it says keep out, like it's
he's hammering on the wall.
Yeah, like it's an episode of the Beano or something, a cartoon, get out, it was just pathetic that they'd actually put that sign up, and then the Hoff is just randomly hitting the wall with a pickaxe, but he's not getting anywhere, and it just made no sense. And then Pierce ran off down the thing, and he's like, he's got his cigar in his mouth. The next minute he's driving the plane. I was like, so after 5 years of not being in service, they're going to let him fly a plane with his suit. And I was just like, this is terrible. But like you say, the Hoff played it for what it was. Very good one, Dave. Very good one. But for me, I've got to call out episode 8 again. And an actor by the name of Matt Frewer. And his portrayal of the Doctor in Generation X is without doubt the biggest Jim Carrey ripoff I have ever seen, ever. And he gives no F's the fact that he's just ripping Jim Carrey off, who at this point in 1996 was at the height of his success with The Mask, Ace Ventura. He's an absolute travesty, but he doesn't just play Jim Carrey. He hams it up like he's doing it as a parody sort of comedy skit you'd see on, say, Saturday Night Live or something. Like, there was a skit they did about Jim Carrey where Jim Carrey was on Saturday Night Live a few years ago, and all the actors and actresses dressed up as his characters, as like The Mask, Ace Ventura. Yeah. And it feels like that. It feels like he's been asked to, portray him in a theatre production of Jim Carrey. It's absolutely just ham on toast, Dave, with extra ham on the side and a slice of bacon on top. It's terrible. So my Hoff Award is Matt Frewer.
Very good. Yeah, he's awful, wasn't he? It was very disturbing as well, wasn't it? But,
yeah, it's just bizarre. Yeah. I mean, honorary mentions Tim Robbins in Weird Science. That was just cringe.
Tim Robbins in Howard the Duck, actually.
Howard the Duck, sorry. Howard the Duck, not Weird Science, sorry. It's terrible. Considering such an accomplished actor he became afterwards, he definitely was just taking any work he could at that point in his career because he was a young lad. But he was
yeah.
And there's been more, Dave, but that's the main one that stands out is Matt. He's fantastic.
Very good, very good. Okay, well, I think that was it. Any others that you can think of?
So for me, Dave, one last award, which I'm just inventing on the fly, is for every episode we've done, from number 1 to 53, is the person who has the best laugh. And we've had some great guests. We've had some fantastic laughs. Me and you have openly, crying, laughing at times, wiping tears away from my face and stuff like that. And, we know each other inside out. And some of the guests have been fantastic. But always, one and all, has got to be Mr. MLG, Mike Lee Graham. That man has got the most infectious laugh. And he actually laughs at some of my terrible corny jokes, which makes them so funny when you listen back to the podcast. It's so infectious because they're not that funny, but because he openly just belly laughs, it just gets me every time, Dave. And I just think it's so good and infectious. So yeah, MLG for the best laugh of the year.
So, and I'm not going to put an explicit tag on this one, so I will bleep myself out, but it did make me laugh on episode 50 where, you know, he brought a bit of the comics knowledge, which honestly I wasn't aware of at the time. He was talking about how Superman could hold together that big ice sheet by, you know, what was it, connecting all the molecules together or something like that. And then he just said, which is fucking bullshit.
yeah. I swear to you, Dave, he tees us up absolutely like you're going off an edge of knowledge and fan of knowledge, and he does the same. He just goes, which is he goes, which is fucking ridiculous, or whatever. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Dave. It gets me every time listening to it. It's such a funny episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you got any other awards you want to throw in there, Dave?
I think probably the worst joke while we're on MLG was because in our pre-show bit we were just trying to figure out, okay, so who's going to introduce us to all that? And I said, hang about, I know.
Oh yeah.
I thought, you know, I've got something here because we'd had Mike on with Mike Garley, hadn't we?
Yeah.
So because we had two mics, we had to call MLG, you know, something else. So Mike Lee Graham and Mike Garley. So like, guys, what do we call you? And so he said, we'll call him MLG. So when we had Mike Lee Graham on his own, it was like, well, do we still call you MLG or do we call you Mike Lee Graham? So we just like, okay, we'll call you Mike Lee Graham. We'll go with that. So, you know, knocked on the record. It's like, okay, the artist formerly known as MLG. But because we'd gone through this whole back and forth about who's going to introduce what, it inadvertently built this joke up to be something that it really wasn't. And the pause, you know, the old tumbleweed just rolling across. So yeah, I think worst joke probably goes down to that one, I think. Oh dear.
Well, the thing was with that though, Dave, I totally agree. It was like, I think Mike said at one point.
He said, was that the joke?
But we've both done that, haven't we? Where we've said something and it's just absolutely died on its backside. It's just like, you know, I know, like they say, you've got to roll with the punches if you want to be a comedian. Very much Davy Brent, but yeah, that was fantastic. So yeah, MLG, 2 awards there, and Dave for, well, MLG gets the award, and you obviously get the award for the worst joke, Dave. So very, very good.
Very good. Okay, should we wrap it up there?
Let's go for it. So, Dave, thank you very much for this last year, mate. Great podcast. Loving it. I suppose it's the end of season 1, really, Dave. I suppose you could call it season 2 of the podcast, couldn't you, in some respects, because we've turned the page, I suppose.
We could, or we could just call it a new year.
Mark the joke now for next year, Dave. There you go. There's your joke. But yeah, you are correct. But no, thank you, mate. I've had a great time, and we've grown the podcast so well. I just want to thank everybody who has supported the podcast, retweeted, listened, critiqued, whatever you've done. We appreciate anybody listening, and the reviews and the Britpod scene, the Bolt Up on Comics movement as well. Thank you so much, guys, because we if it wasn't for everyone out there listening and being invested in what we both do, we wouldn't be at episode 53 at all. And we love doing it, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just echo all of that. So very good. Okay. I'll see you again soon.
Take care.